Hey, everybody, welcome. So very glad you could join us this afternoon. We are, of course, experiencing a beautiful day here in Utah, very dry and very hot. So,
I
this
guess that it's only beautiful if you think dry and hot is beautiful. So,
is, which, but again, very glad you joined us today. We are, in case you might have jumped in the wrong room, we are talking about what the wealthy really want, the four elements of planning experience, the high net worth clients crave. This is something that we've been studying, watching, working with top advisors to make sure that we understand exactly what are the best practices, and that's what we're going to be sharing with you today. So, why us? So, my name is Matt Hicken. I'm the Senior Vice President of Consulting here at Bill Good Marketing. Been in the industry for 24 years. 14 of those years I spent actually working in an advisor's office, managing the portfolios, building the business, running the office, but also meeting with prospects, clients, and working with them on these things that we'll be talking about today.
and I'm Tony Parmenter. I'm the Senior Vice President of Client Success here at Bill Good Marketing. I too started about 24 years ago. Matt dragged me kicking and screaming to Bill Good Marketing when we were in college. And when he left me to go live in North Carolina, I continued to do the hard work here at Bill Good Marketing. But no, I've been coaching financial advisors like yourselves for nearly a quarter of a century, teaching them how to build best practices, manage their clients, establish relationships. And so we at Bill Good Marketing have been cultivating this information from the best practices of people just like you out in the wild, including Matt and Rob when Matt was out in North Carolina. So I coached him and wrangled him and took his best ideas and made them ours. So.
Exactly. But that is the beautiful thing about the Bill Good Marketing system is it is a system of best practices. What we're seeing across the industry, we'll try ideas, we'll come up with them, we'll work with ideas that people have given, add steps, repeatable processes to it to then allow you to replicate those wonderful best practices that work every time. So a couple of things of housekeeping before we dive fully into our topic for today. Very first off, we want this to be a great help to you. We want this to be we want your questions answered ultimately. So when you do have a question, please jump in either to the chat or the Q&A and ask away. We would be happy to answer your questions. Some of your questions we will just answer through the chat or the Q&A. Some questions we will answer verbally as it fits. But we will make sure that all of your questions are answered, even if it takes us in a slightly different direction. We will just make sure we address it because this is ultimately for you. Um, uh, and again, I'll remind you throughout, but Tony and I do love having questions.
And I'll answer the first question right out of the gate. Number one, this is being recorded. This is going to be recorded. Everyone who's registered for this, you guys will get a notification as soon as the recording is posted. So Matt and I have a lot of information to cover. We're going to just kind of cruise through it and talk about it. Obviously, ask your questions. We want to discuss your questions, but we don't want to go back and pause on slides so people can get screenshots and stuff like that. Don't worry about that sort of thing. Take in the information right now. When the recording comes out, you can revisit it, flesh out your notes, add your own screenshots, whatever you need to at that point in time. So, and then the second question is, hey, Tony, what do I get out of this? And so one of the things that we always do at Bill Good Marketing, especially if you've been on any of our webinars like this before, is we always have what we like to call a goodie bag. We like to give you a bag of goodies. As you can tell, I've probably eaten a few too many bags of goodies, but our goodie bags aren't going to give you diabetes and they're not going to be full of calories. Instead, what we're going to give you at the conclusion of this, if you fill out the survey that we give you, there'll be a link at the end of the webinar. You fill out the survey at the link, and as a thank you for filling out the survey, giving us that information, finding out what we can do to help you a little bit better, we're going to give you a guidebook that we've created called the $1,000,000 Contact Strategy. And this really delves more into the processes that we teach at Bill Good Marketing and the strategy that we use at Bill Good Marketing to establish and maintain these high caliber client relationships that lead to more referrals, more assets, which is at the end of the day what you're trying to do. So at the end of the webinar, remember there will be a link. Make sure you click that link, you fill out the complete survey that we give you, tell us what we can do to help you, and the guidebook is yours as a thank you for doing that for us.
And the wonderful first question, Tony, I think is actually directed to you. And is this the high net worth webinar or the high hair worth webinar? It is both. One of the great benefits at the end of this is Tony will share hair care secrets.
That's true. Absolutely. For those of you who don't know, I do have, or aren't watching, you're just listening. I do have an amazing coif, courtesy of a professional hairstylist of 25 years, my beautiful wife. So yeah, I got good hair. And if you want to know more about that, I'll tell you about that too. But that's not for this webinar today.
Awesome. But do stay to the end to get this goodie bag. It actually is chock full of the strategies that we'll be talking about today that will help you implement everything that we'll be discussing.
So the first thing that we want to talk about is what is the problem? It's important that we discuss what is the problem that you guys are facing. And one of the top complaints that the high net worth and the ultra high net worth constantly have is, uh, gosh, I was working with my advisor who's helping me with my wealth management or my investment management, but I needed somebody who was going to help me with my insurance, or it was going to help me with other aspects that I needed. And so those clients end up leaving to go get insurance or to go get estate plans or leaving to go get some of these other services that ultimately, at the end of the day, you should either provide or be the quarterback on. So why do these clients not have this perception? Why do they not understand that you provide these services? So there's basically two main problems here. Number one is the lack of communication. We have found that many advisors, whether it's an overabundance of caution, I don't want to bombard them with all the things I can do for them, or maybe I feel like I've told them everything that I do for them, but I'm not sending it to them on a consistent basis. So there's just lack of communication. So we want to talk about how important it is to communicate on a consistent basis the other services that you provide, the complete comprehensive wealth management that you do. And the second thing is the quality. Sometimes the quality of the information that you're providing just doesn't really get the point across. They don't fully understand that when you're talking about how important insurance is to their broader high net worth plan, realistically, you provide that service as well, can provide that service as well. So we really want to make sure that there's a plan in place, that you're consistently sending them information, you're consistently talking to them about the services you provide, and that consistent drip of information or flow of information shows them, here's the problem you have, here's how I as your financial advisor will solve this, whether again that's directly handling those things or whether you are quarterbacking a relationship, which we'll talk more about as well. To kind of talk about this perception gap a little bit, there was a survey that was done, or there was some information that was gathered that showed what clients in the financial services realm expected or wanted from their financial advisor versus what they felt they received or was delivered to them. And so you can see on this graph all the different aspects that the College of Financial Planning talks about are services that the financial advisor should be providing. For example, on the first one there, financial planning, 92% of clients said they expected some degree of financial planning. The interesting thing is only 59% of the clients that were surveyed felt that they had received that. Some of these are better than others. Obviously, under investment management, 92% expected it. 73% said they got it. Still kind of strange that more than 20% felt they didn't get investment management from their financial advisor. But there's some of them like non-liquid asset management and long-term care insurance advice. These are all aspects of a comprehensive wealth plan that you are providing or can provide through your strategic partners or through the services that you provide. But clearly, the clients either don't realize that those services are available to them or they don't realize they're receiving those services. So this is the perception gap that we're talking about. One step further that we talk about in the perception gap is this has changed, and the expectation that our clients have in this industry of what you can deliver has grown. There's the term everybody knows, holistic financial advice. Well, just since 2018, we've seen a 60% rise of people saying, hey, I want holistic, I want complete comprehensive financial management. And initially, that's only 47% of the ideal demographic of clients that you're already working with. But if we look at the next generation of clients, and we're talking about the sons and daughters, the grandsons and granddaughters, or even just younger generation people, 74% of those people say that they expect to receive comprehensive wealth management. So there's a high level of expectation, there's a high level of desire, there's a high level of drive. But again, every time this is surveyed, people come away feeling like they're not getting that. So realistically, and here's another graph that we're looking at, what high net worth investors are looking for. They're looking for tax planning. They're looking for trust and estate planning. They're looking for health and elder care. And they want to see that this is being delivered on a consistent basis. You have to, again, going back to what I started with, you have to not only be able to deliver these services, which we're going to talk about, but you have to be able to communicate that you deliver these services, that you offer these services, that you are the quarterback to be able to drive and deliver all of these services to your clients and prospects.
Which is kind of the big issue, I feel, because I would imagine most of the people, and I hope my audio is slightly better now. I tried to fix it. So
you sound better to me. Yeah.
good. Thank you. Thanks, Travis. So the idea is that I feel like most of the people on the call are probably providing or looking at these statistics that you shared, Tony, and are saying, well, yeah, I do that. I actually do that. I do provide long-term care advice. Oh, no, I cover that too. The problem is if the perception, which was that first graph, is different, then when somebody else comes along, if another advisor hosts a seminar or a workshop or sends them an email or makes a cold call, sure, whatever it might be, and says, hey, this is what I offer. And they may think, okay, that looks like I clearly missed it. I mean, this is one of those things that for us was actually a deal out there in North Carolina. One of our biggest clients came to us to withdraw $5 million from their account, and they have quite a bit more than that. So, and it was kind of a regular practice since he was in commercial real estate. So we asked, all right, well, what are you doing now? Where's the new property? And he said, oh, no, I'm actually doing an insurance policy. And it was like, oh, that's something we could have done.
Yeah.
I didn't realize you guys did insurance. It's like, we've said it. We've talked about it. It is in this little handout that you got at the beginning of our relationship, or it's on our website, which is often when I hear. But the problem is he didn't have that perception. So that is where the problem lies. So what does it take then to be able to say that you do the best practice of providing comprehensive wealth management? And really yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to add one thing to that. And I think this is important. My wife and I were discussing this last night as I was kind of talking through and preparing for this. And she was trying to understand, well, is this just a benefit for the financial advisor? And I said, no, at the end of the day, this is a benefit for the client too. They need to understand that you do all of this stuff for them. Because here's the thing. I mean, Matt talked about this client who withdrew $5 million to go take out an insurance policy. Matt didn't know who this insurance provider was. He didn't know, is this one of those guys who's going to, take the commission and run and just never talk to this client again? Are they going to get the level of service that Matt and his financial advisory group gave that client? They had no idea how that was going to go long term. And so your clients can end up getting subpar service. They can be getting not as good a rates on certain things. They can be getting products that don't necessarily match their specific needs, because a lot of these people aren't looking at the broader financial plan. When you care about these clients and you're trying to deliver the highest level service possible, the more you are the quarterback and the controller of these assets and the controller of these other services, the better off your clients are going to be. So it's a win-win-win. It's a win for you because it's more and better business for you. It's a win for the client because they're ultimately going to be all in-house under a better umbrella of management. So I just wanted to throw that in there.
No, exactly. So the key here to me, again, is that there are 4 key aspects to making sure that you can check off the box saying, yes, I provide comprehensive wealth management in all the best practices that we've seen. And to kind of start that off, I'd like to say that ultimately the reality is your job as the financial advisor is to build the relationship, to establish that relationship, to really get to know the client, everything there is to know about that client, so that you can help to make those decisions, to know when certain things would apply best, because it is not their job to tell you. And unfortunately, the other professionals, their job is to execute on that particular thing. And your job is to see the bigger picture. So it is going to be to do all of that. But the very first thing that we've seen that is the best practice in providing comprehensive wealth management is that you actually do need to cover all aspects. I have talked to some offices, and probably not those in attendance, that don't do all of these things. But the way we look at it is there's kind of 6 main components of wealth. And that's cash flow, investments, tax strategies, comes into risk mitigation, legacy planning, and personal fulfillment. There's 13 wealth management principles. There's 9. I've seen all kinds of numbers. It doesn't really matter as far as the number. It's that you're covering all of these aspects. By that, I don't mean that you have to be the expert in, for example, payroll. Or you have to be the expert in making sure that titling of all assets is correct and appropriate. It's just that you are quarterbacking to ensure the client is covering all of these services, and then making sure that you tell them about it, right? So the second big piece is that you have a tangible handout, something to give them when you are meeting with them, which we'll talk about in just a second, so that they can take that away, so that they have something in hand that says, yes, my advisor covered my tax strategies, or my advisor covered my insurance strategies, or they covered my, they discussed with me an analysis of all my insurance coverage. So whatever it might be, they take away something, they bring it home. I hand out a piece of paper, a brochure, or whatever it might be, to say that, yes, this is what we did. Having that tangible thing is going to be a big piece of this. Note taking during the meeting, or questionnaires done electronically, or hey, I'll send you an email of an article. Those are all fine, but it doesn't meet this condition of a tangible item to take home in hand. So that's the second item, which brings up, of course, the third. And this is probably one of the more significant ones in my mind, because I personally, as I go around and I visit with different teams across North America, and I work with them on the various aspects of their business and their practice, there are 2 things that I commonly hear that indicate the exact same problem. Number one, so-and-so has more in assets, and yet such and such advisor I know has more in assets, but they have fewer team members, and yet I can't seem to get all the things that I need to get done. The second problem I hear, that is the exact same problem, ultimate cause, is I don't have enough time in the day, or I feel like I'm just kind of flying through by the seat of my pants, and I don't feel as organized as I should be. When I dig down with those teams to see what exactly is occurring, what is the problem, it's that they don't have a systematic way to deliver the services that they are offering to their clients. It's hey, like such and such, the Andersons now need help with their estate. They brought it up in a meeting, so hey, we'll cover that. Or hey, the Joneses, I just met with a wholesaler. He was talking about insurance. I'm just going to meet with the Joneses. I'll bring it up with them now and just see if that's something they maybe need to cover. There's no system to it. There's no method to the madness, right? And then the other problem is that if there was at the beginning, so in other words, I created a comprehensive wealth management plan, I put everything together, I outlined it, and then I only bring it up thereafter if it's brought up to me, or if there's a problem that came to me. What I would prefer is if I had a system of delivery. So if I had a set of meetings. Now, again, you can set this up however you want. I've had some teams that I've worked with that they call it the 4 pillars, or I've had some teams, it's the proprietary 5-step strategy, whatever you want to call it. It has to be systematic in delivery. So in other words, every meeting has a theme and has a subject we're going to cover. Now, in this example up on the slide, there are 9 meetings, including an optional one up there too, that I can host with my client to go through and say, okay, yes, we're going to have our asset titling meeting, and we're going to make sure that all of the assets are titled, or we have a plan or a calendar set out of when we're going to adjust the titling of the various assets, and when you're going to meet with your other financial institutions to change those titles. So maybe that's the theme for the meeting. In that meeting, the way that typically works, just to kind of walk through that I've seen the best way, is starts off with any questions that the client has. I should have sent them an advance notice that these are the things we're going to be covering. They need to bring in whatever documents are needed for this meeting. Then I start off with the questions, then move into here's a brief update on everything that's going on in your portfolio. Make sure that they know that, hey, these are the plans, these are what we're kind of seeing going forward. And then it's a discussion of the topic. So, okay, now, so we have this checklist and we do have all the checklists of the various meetings. So we've got this asset titling checklist meeting that we're going to be going through. Let's go through all the assets. Let's set up the things that need to be done. Here's your assignments. Here's my assignments. Here's something to take home to help you understand a little bit better about why we're doing this or how we're doing this or the purpose behind this. And then we're going to meet again at our next interval to discuss the next step, right? So the next meeting that's going to come up on the docket, so that each meeting, I feel like as a client, I'm coming away getting my questions answered. And this is actually something fascinating I'll throw in here that I found. Back when I was meeting with clients, we had a wonderful client that wanted to meet with me, and he came in, which was odd because I figured he'd want to meet with the advisor. He's like, "No, you're the process guy. I want to meet with you." And I said, "Great." So he came in and he said, "Look, like I have 3 questions that I want answered." And it was so succinct and so beautiful. I thought, well, I wonder if everybody else does. So I started asking other clients, could you summarize the questions you would ask of us? And sometimes I prompt them, sometimes I just let them go. In all cases, despite the slight change in wording, it was always the same 3 questions. And then I went and visited a team in South Carolina. And usually I tell teams about this and they said, "Oh, that makes sense." And then they ask their clients and they get good results. But this team in South Carolina did the exact same thing I did. They talked to a client, found out they had 3 questions. They delved into it. They labeled them slightly different, used different wording, but they all end up the same thing. And those 3 questions are, number 1, am I okay? Right? Client wants to know if they're good. That could mean to that particular client at that point in time, yes, my plan is on track. That could mean that, yes, my goal that I really wanted to accomplish, that, Rolls Royce I wanted to buy as soon as I retire, that's available. They just want to know, are they okay? Number 2, what are you doing for them? So in other words, what steps are you taking? What actions are you providing? What advice are you giving that's helping them move forward? So in other words, what are you doing for them? And then the third is, what is the value of the overall relationship? And obviously we know that value is a combination of both deliverables and costs of those deliverables. So this is where the tangibles, the handouts, and the systematic way of going through this come into play, because I can let them know on a regular basis and through those handouts, this is what I'm doing for you. This is the value of what that's providing. And of course, I'm always opening the meeting with letting them know, are they okay? So ultimately, just it's making sure that you have all of this set up. Now, some of you may on the call may be like, well, Matt, my clients don't need that much. They don't need to delve into that much. Yeah, totally. Not every client is going to need 9 meetings. And they're also not going to necessarily need the, more than 1 meeting a year. So what I would do in those cases, and we don't need to share that anymore, what I would do in those cases is actually just make sure that the client understands the things that they need to go through. So if I was looking at this at a tiered system, which is what we recommend, my top tier clients would potentially have 3 meetings a year with me. Each one of those meetings would have a theme. Now, if you're going by our 9 meeting process, then obviously you would be repeating your meetings every 3 years, which makes a lot of sense. I would want to review an estate strategy or just to make sure everything's okay every 3 years. But if I'm a bottom tier client, then maybe what I'll do is just hand that client a checklist. And this is just a financial checklist of things that they need to go through to make sure that they're on track, things they need to look up, is my will updated, things like that. Because there's not a complexity or a need to spend a whole hour-long meeting diving into a single subject. And then obviously the in-between tiers are going to have a varying degree of that. So maybe my second tier clients I might meet with twice per year. Maybe it's a 6-meeting process, so I'm still repeating every 3 years, but it's, some of those areas are not as complex, so I could probably combine them. But make sure that you do have a system to go through with that. And that system is applied by client and by service tier so that you're profitably delivering that. And then the final note, as far as making sure that this is absolutely the best way of doing this, is to make sure that you are not just doing all this yourself, that you are relying on other professionals, which we'll talk about in just a little bit. But don't pretend to be the expert on all these things. Coordinate well with the other professionals to ensure each one of these areas is properly covered.
And so you just went over a lot of information, a lot of this process. And I noticed, John, you had a really good question or comment, I guess. Sometimes clients can feel overwhelmed by all the homework and all the things they're supposed to do. And so the formula that we're recommending in the format is like Matt said, you don't do it all. I talk to financial advisors all the time and I say, hey, do you do comprehensive wealth management? Yes, I do. Okay, what do you do in your first meeting? I do comprehensive wealth management. What do you do in your second meeting? Comprehensive. And so what they're trying to do is they're trying to take all of this information and conflate it to every meeting. Now, sometimes that means that financial advisors, when they do their reviews, it's a 3 hour meeting. I actually met a guy in New Jersey who said every one of his review meetings with his clients was a 3 hour meeting. Yeah. They're going to walk out of that meeting feeling like they just got hit in the face with a fire hose. They're not ready to take all that in one shot. Or sometimes it's like it's so sparse and so light that the client doesn't, again, they go back to that perception gap. They don't feel like they got, proper coverage on insurance or proper discussion on wills and trusts and estates and stuff like that. And so what you have to do is break this up like Matt's talking about. We suggest 9 meetings. Matt's got a formula that uses all these topics that we talked about and breaks them into 9 meetings that are all pretty well balanced in terms of time. And you just rotate through those 9 meetings with the clients. At the end of each meeting, you give them a recap of here's what we did in today's meeting, and here's what we're going to do the next time we meet. And it keeps it simple, and it keeps it light, and it keeps it digestible. So to your point, John, yes, if you handle it the wrong way, it's completely undigestible. If we take it in bite-sized pieces each meeting, it's going to be much more manageable.
Yeah, and
Um,
so just another note on that too, because I agree, and it's a great question, John. There are clients that I find it in particular the widows. Yeah, like diving into
yeah,
this is going to be rough. Take it slower, right?
yeah,
Obviously, the idea is to help your client progress, make sure that they're not going to have any major problems or concerns. So, if I can slow down on certain aspects of their entire wealth
mhm,
plan, or maybe I don't do the one of the meetings, maybe I don't cover the family gifting strategy at a meeting because they're just not quite ready for that. But titling of assets is a must. We've really got to get on that because health is a factor, whatever it might be. But just narrow it down for that individual client. But the beautiful thing is, if I have a system that it's
mhm,
automated in my CRM as much as it possibly can be, then it's much easier for me to make those adjustments by
right,
person than it is to say, oh, well, I've got this thing, I've got to cover this for this client, I've got these other parts, and they're just not ready for it. So how do I do? It's just too hard to keep track of, especially when you're trying to manage, hundreds of households in this whole process and make sure all of them feel like they're receiving this wonderful management. And then
yeah,
the other point I'd like to put in here too is the point that Michael said, is that if you're constantly communicating your services, this doesn't really happen. 100% agree. And that's what this process is about, is to
right,
actually constantly communicate it in a way that's not just in your face, right? I'm not going to
right.
send them an email every week saying, hey, by the way, here's a list of my services. So, and I know that's not what anybody's saying, but I just, to the extreme example, the idea here is if they know that I have a system for going through everything to do with their wealth, they know that I'm going to be communicating with them on it. They're going to know that,
Right.
hey, like if I have an insurance need, I can go to the team for that.
And the beautiful thing about and so let's talk about communicating this process. So realistically, there's several pieces that are essential for this communication to be clear and for the client to come away understanding what it is you do. The first one that we talk about is tangible handouts, and I kind of jumped to this immediately because everything Matt's been talking about fits under that category. From the very get go, when you're establishing the first relationship with this new client, you're explaining to them, I have a planning process. Here's what the planning process is made up of. Here's the 9 meetings or the 9 sections we're going to review. Our first review is on this first item. Next time we're going to talk about that one. And next time we're going to talk about that one. Well, they come away. Here's the 9 meetings that we're going to go over. Here's the last one. Here's the next one. They can see that entire path. I took my children hiking not too long ago, and it was a longer hike. And my son, who doesn't like necessarily to hike for long periods of time without some degree of understanding, we went through the map and we said, here's the mileposts, and we're going to make sure we acknowledge to these mileposts, maybe by stopping, getting a drink of water and eating a little snack real quick. But what we did is we laid out beforehand, here's the path. It's going to be this nice long 8 mile out and back. Here's the mileposts. And my son could see when we reached milepost number 1, Cool. You've made it from the start point to milepost number one. We'll take our little snack. Next time when we get up on our feet again and go, we're going to go to milepost number two. He had a very clear understanding. Now I know that's a very rudimentary way of putting it, but it gets the point across. That's what you're trying to do. And so your physical handouts are going to help you draw that map, that set of mileposts on the path. The second thing that you're going to do is your promotional scripts. You need to, in your conversation, now this includes yourself as the financial advisor, but your whole team needs to echo this process. Your whole team needs to echo. We as a financial planning group are all helping you move along this map, along these mileposts. And so your service person needs to have a script when they're scheduling the next appointment for you. Oh, yes, Matt is your financial advisor. You guys talked about estate planning next time. He wanted me to call and set up your insurance review to make sure that all your insurance aspects are set up. We're scheduling that meeting for, Tuesday the 15th. I'm going to send you an email with a checklist of a couple items he needs you to pull together for that meeting. Can you do that for us? So that scripting that they're using to schedule that appointment is allowing them to promote this idea that there's a comprehensive wealth plan that's going on, comprehensive management that's going on, and that they are taking the next step in that comprehensive path. The next thing that you do is you do workshops. As a financial advisor, as you guys know, there's a very high degree of responsibility that you have to continue to educate your clients on the changes in the industry, changes in the market. Heck, let's just talk about why the world seems like it's on fire again. And as you do these workshops and these educations, you're drawing the focus of those to remember, we're on a path, we're on a road, we're on a trail here. Here's the milepost. So I'm talking about something that maybe impacts milepost number three. So if you're on milepost number two, don't worry. When we get to three, we're going to address this with you. If we just passed number three, don't worry. Next time we circle back to milepost number three, we'll address these factors in your plan. So as you do these education meetings, they allow you this. Now, the trick here is consistency. I see financial advisors will do a flurry of these when the markets are wild or there's something going on. And then they don't do any educational events for a year or two. And then something comes up and they do a flurry of them again. And then they don't do any educational events. The problem with this, again, it goes back to that perception. The perception gap comes from a lack of consistency in that communication as to what the path is. And so it's very, very important that you keep those educational events going. We have strategies at Bill Good Marketing that we teach about the frequency of education events, the frequency of review meetings, the frequency of conversations, all of which focus on where are you at on your path and what is the next step. The other thing that we talk about, and if you've ever followed Bill Good Marketing, you know we talk to death about targeted messaging. Messaging is huge and essential. And it goes back to a comment that Michael Schwartz made. As long as you're communicating with your clients, as long as you're telling them what's going on, you shouldn't have this problem. But time and time again, as we bring on new clients to Build Good Marketing, or we have people, wander off into the wilderness and come back and go, Tony, the system seems to be broken down. How do we get it going again? The consistency of messages seems to have fallen out. And so it's very, very important that you, number one, are communicating on a consistent basis, a basis they can expect. They know what to expect from you, how frequently. Number two, it's frequent enough that they feel like they are in communication with you. And then number three, and this is very important, there are three advisory identities that you have to be establishing. You have to be pointing out that you are an expert financial advisor, that you are a good citizen, and that you're a caring, well-mannered individual that cares about these individuals. And so the frequency and the content of your messaging has to reflect all of those aspects. Now, if you tie all these things together, if from the moment they walk in the office, they get a handout that says, this is the map and these are the mileposts. If every time you meet with them, they get another handout that says, here's where we made it to milepost number one. Here's what the path looks like to milepost number three. If every communication from your team reiterates, here's where you're at. We're moving from milepost 1 to 2. Here's what you need to do to get us to milepost number 2. If you're educating them on what the trail is going to look like, on what the terrain is going to look like, what changes are going to be between milepost 1 and 2 or 2 and 3. And then if you're always educating them on, hey, as your financial advisor, here's how I take care of your insurance needs. As your financial advisor, here's how I help you with your estate planning needs through written communication, as well as just keeping that good, well-mannered, meaningful relationship alive. Your clients, to Michael's point, don't ever feel like they have to go outside to someone else to get a life insurance policy, or go out to somebody else that doesn't know them to get a mortgage for a second property or something like that. As the overall comprehensive wealth manager, you are the quarterback on all of those aspects of their business, and they know it, and they're
Well, and
like,
I think there's an important point here too that to make because there is a, and you mentioned this earlier, Tony, but I want to highlight it again here. There is a massive difference between the quantity of messaging that you're sending and the quality, right?
"Mhm,
If I send, one quality piece, that's going to have way more of an impact and be way more memorable than, a dozen, kind of junk mail kind of a things.
yeah,
It is important that your messaging convey not just in words, but how it's written, the feeling that comes off of it, those three identities that Tony talked about. Um, if you are to truly be their full comprehensive wealth manager, they need to have complete trust in you. And that does require that you are, they see you as the kind, caring individual, that you are a contributing member of the community and you are the expert. And which brings up the second point is that often what I see, and this is according to 68% of investors feel like all advisors are the same, which I find fascinating. And the reality is that when I look at the communication that comes from most financial advisors, it's market commentary, investment trades or investment related messages, and then also some basic communication. When I sit down and meet with them, I talk about their statements. I show them their scenarios on their Monte Carlo simulations, and then we wonder why they wouldn't turn to us for the full comprehensive wealth management, or why we struggle getting into that with somebody. The reality is the identity is not there. So we do have to have good, solid, quality communication, and that's just as another plug. This is why we put in that goodie bag to this broadcast, because that guide book that walks through that $1 million content management strategy talks about all these things. It talks through the aspects that you're going to need to be able to develop this quality communication that goes out. So do stay to the end, answer those few questions, one of which is actually going to be, what help can we provide in this high net worth strategy? But then you'll get that guidebook that we're talking about here. So we've got the processes in place. Now, how do we make sure that people are talking about it? And then how do we make sure we can deliver on it? And the very first thing I
oh,
want to talk about,
hey, hey, Matt, real quick.
yeah,
Rob asked the question, scripts for the path. Um, so Rob, that's what the system is that we have. And so if you want to know what those scripts look like, what these agendas look like that Matt shared, fill out the survey. We can show you a lot more on that front. So
definitely. Yeah. And yeah, there's a lot to it because we are about processes. So,
yes.
that's not quite your question, Rob. Please do clarify a little bit more. We'd be happy to help. And we did see that the recording stopped, but hopefully it jumped back in and enough. And I didn't mention too many things that were bad, but either way, we'll make sure that's fixed for the recording for later. But let's talk about how we now get our clients, our high net worth clients, to talk about this with their friends, to be these raving fans. And part of it, the very first step in my mind, has to do with exactly what it means to deliver on this, and that is have strategic partners, uh, other professionals who are the specialists, the subject matter experts in their field that can help in applying each aspect of this wealth management process. So, if you have not developed strategic partners, we do have a set process for that. And it is a 6-step process that, when repeated, it works every time. But the idea is you need to work with those professionals who are engaged, who are going to jump at this, not, yeah, sure, send me another referral and I'll take care of it. I need them to be fully engaged, because the process that we have as far as these meetings go, it starts a month out before the meeting starts. And one of the steps that month before is to communicate with the professional, the coinciding professional, with what you're going to be discussing. And then it ends 1 month after the meeting. And again, results in coordinating with other professional. It just systematizes that coordination to make sure that the client knows, and you know that as a professional group, you are handling everything in that systematic way. Um, but the other key here is to let your professionals know what it is that you do. Like, what exactly do you provide? That it is quite a bit more than just investment management. That it is everything. That your job is to help coordinate it. And as the head coordinator or quarterback or however you want to refer to yourself, you will be sending business back to them, like the updates to things, to the attorney, the check in on the tax strategy that maybe you talked about with your client, to go back to their CPA and discuss. Maybe it's going to another attorney to better term and label or categorize their business, and maybe you're talking through the gifting strategy with their clergy, whatever it might be. I'm coordinating with all these other professionals to ensure that they know that this is what you do and that you're taking care of your existing client. So, and one of those realities is we were talking through with our clients, we found that the advisors that we work with, many of them didn't. We all think of the standards, right? We think of the uh, CPA and attorney for these professionals. But then we don't think about all of these other areas of things that we need to be working on. So, all of these things that we've talked about before that honestly are what's going to cover that full comprehensive wealth management. And one of the areas in particular that we found was with insurance, which is why, because we're trying to help as much as we possibly can, we formed a partnership with FIG that they can help in that insurance side. So if you don't have somebody you're working with to help with insurance, I would definitely turn to this group. They are a great group. They help with all the different aspects to it, everything from training and understanding of what to look for, how to look for it, what to do, and everything. And they cover all the various types of insurance, all the way down to the back office side of making sure that payments are coming through correctly. What are you meeting goals that you wanted to hit as far as sales are concerned? But just making sure that they're that extra support for you in that. So now, if you have somebody, fantastic, use them, leverage that relationship beyond just the insurance side. We are looking for other relationships and developing them in other aspects to potentially help you in this area, so that you have a full comprehensive system that's going to help you manage all of this together. Which ultimately is really kind of the goal of the entire BGM system, and that is to help you cover everything that you need to cover. It's one of those things that I think we struggle saying what it is that we do, because it is everything. But the reality is we help in everything that's going to help your business double, or allow you to work half as much while making the same amount. Or if you really want to hit it, because this is usually the question I get, we can do both. And it's because all of the things we've discussed today, along with all of the other things that are necessary to grow your business, we have the processes, we have the steps, we have the flow charts. So the meeting process that I discussed, there's a flow chart from everything that's done a month before, to 2 weeks before, to 2 days before, to the day of, to the day after, to the 2 weeks after, to the months after, so that each one of these meetings is systematic and then is plugged into as a workflow within your CRM, so that you can follow through on all of that. But the system, is what we call it, is meant to help you double your production or work half as much. And ultimately, that's what we want to make sure that we help you with. So before I jump into some final things, are there any questions or any comments that have come up that we want to make sure that we address before we dive into this final bit?
And while we're waiting for the questions to come in, I'll just add to what Matt's saying. Like, the point of the system, and I want to go kind of pointing back to Rob's question and pointing to John, your comment about my analogy of the trail. There's a lot of things. Matt talked about the system. He talked about the flow charts. He talked about the process. We also have a lot of the content. You saw the tangible agendas that Matt put up on screen. We write letters. We have letters that are designed to support all this. We have scripts to help your staff support all of this. And the idea is because we provide you and give you a lot of this content, which you then modify and work in with your team. you guys are able to all as a team comprehensively and completely talk about and implement this process. So the full Bill Good marketing system really helps you get this off the ground and manage it and add pieces and adjust pieces as time goes on. So
Definitely. Um, Does the system also prompt me to stay primed from project management perspective that Salesforce I feel may lack? Yeah, this is one of those fun things. So the various CRMs and Salesforce is one in particular. They all have their ways of managing data and workflows. Um, and yeah, our CRM is has its own way that we
Mhm.
base on best practices, what we see works best in the industry. Um, and thank you, Michael. So we believe that it covers all of those things.
Yeah.
However, we do have, like I said, the workflows drawn out, steps in the processes for onboarding new clients to this meeting process outlined that you would be able to program into Salesforce if your version of Salesforce has that capability to put those in and automate them. Um, this is one of the keys, and actually, this is probably good that we brought this up, John, just because I think I missed it earlier. Uh, Numbers. So I talked about earlier that is one of the big problems that people have is actually executing on all of these services to all of their clients. Um, if you tier it and you organize it, and everything is exactly as we've described in this call, great. You should be able to, as a single advisor, manage up to 200 to 250 households. That's as of right now that I'm seeing that you can do that and still maintain some sanity. Um, Maybe
Some,
as
not all.
more tools become available and AI allows us to augment our ability to systematize some of these things. Um, sure. Now, again, I just caveat on that. This is a totally different conversation, but AI is a tool, not a replacement. So don't use it as a replacement for anything, just as a tool. So, but that being said, if there may be a day where that can increase, but if it doesn't, which very well might be the case, then the idea is to grow the team, right? To adjust the team, to grow it so that you have either service advisors or relationship managers, whatever you want to title them, that will actually help meet with some of those clients. I would have them specialize in groups of clients. So, in other words, if you've got clients that have assets on the scale of 250,000 to a million, maybe that's one relationship manager that specializes in the problems and in the needs of that group. And then maybe you have another that goes from a million to 3 million or so, maybe even up to 6 million, 6 million to 12 and above. It maybe is you, but just keeping those obstacles that they're facing together so that as an advisor that's serving those folks, they can specialize in solving those problems. And you can grow it up that way, right? And we also have all that outlined for you. So we've got career paths, method, job descriptions, KPIs, metrics to make sure that each team member is meeting in order to progress on that path to become that servicing advisor or relationship manager that can now help with those clients and allow you to continue to grow as a business and not personally be capped at that 200 to 250 households, but not as a business be capped at that number.
I told you guys at the outset it's a lot. We got way more than Matt and I can cover in an hour. So, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, and so there is good, and I appreciate that nod, Michael, because it is we've done a lot of help, and it's been a good partnership with a lot of the advisors, and we'd love for y'all to join. But on that note, just if there's any other questions, please drop them in. But I
Yeah.
do want to respect your time, so what we would ask is obviously to reach out, set up a time to talk to Stephanie. She is as wonderfully kind as that smile looks. She will help you with where you're at, what systems we have that can help you get to where you need to go. All you have to do is fill out the goodie bag. That goodie bag, again, is this $1 million contact management strategy. And you can either scan what's up on your screen, the QR code. We will put a link in the chat that you can click on that will jump you to the goodie bag. But ultimately, we just, or you could type it in if you wanted to. That would be silly, I think, personally. But if you want to type it in, you're filling it, then it's there at the bottom of the QR code, bgmtips.com/wealthy. Either way, please fill that out. You'll get a copy of that great guide book, and then also give you a chance to set up a time to talk to Stephanie to see what we can do to help you in your processes with helping the high net worth. Also would love for you to check out, we do a lot of webinars, we do a lot of different broadcast videos, things like that. Check out our YouTube page to get access. It's a lot of information that we're giving in these that you have access to for free. So, and
Okay.
I think that's it. So unless there's any other questions, I really appreciate everybody jumping. I know we talked fast and went through a lot, so hopefully you'll be able to watch this back at half speed.
Yeah, yeah. Usually you need Matt and I at half speed. So, but thank you guys. It's been good chatting with you. Thank you for you guys' feedback, and we look forward to meeting more of you in the future.
Yep. Thank you very much.